And the Chris Craft is getting ready to go in the hoist so that it can swell, because this is an antique boat with a bottom that needs to swell. So Whiskey is over here replacing the drain plug. It fell out last year.
Garboard drain plug.
Garboard drain plug.
Yeah. It didn't have a through hull. You want to hand me that? I can...
See what you're doing?
Yeah, so it had one that was just bolted on the inside, which completely fell off. And ideally what you want is one that goes through like that, bolts to the hull, and then screws in the inside. So I gotta, believe it or not, I'm gonna bore a hole through the bottom of this boat.
Oh. Whiskey's gonna explain this drain thing.
Clamp, so this goes through the hole with a, I'm gonna use boat life because you can, this will cure underwater, and this thing, the minute I have this in, is going in the water. So this goes through, load it up with boat life.
And that's obviously on the inside, so you can get to it.
I have a bronze washer in here, but it didn't come with one, and the hardware store doesn't have one. Spam is always calling me. And then this is how it keeps the water from coming in the boat.
This is inside.
This is inside. Yep, that's how it works.
Okay. But we're going to regroup, give it some thought, and do it tomorrow instead of 4:30 in the evening.
4:30, yeah, I'm not going to cut a hole in the bottom of the boat right now. So continuing from where we left off yesterday, I have pulled back the cover halfway. I'm standing in the second cockpit. I've pulled the floor up. None of these things are particularly easy because they fit really good and you can't get your nails in. You don't want to put any tools in there. So, and then I look down and there is the plug that fell out. That's the entire fitting. That's the whole Garboard drain fitting. It was just screwed in from the bottom. And I thought, well, where the heck does it go? And then, of course, you look in there. I'm like, well, that's a horrible friggin' spot. But it's not that tragic because we got a handy little access panel. So it's not like working in bedrock at all. We'll update accordingly. So here's the new through hull fitting. And what I need to do is just confirm that if I enlarge that hole, which I have to do, and I'll show you the trick on how to do that in a minute. I need to know 100% for sure that this nut is going to have room in there and not hit the keel. So let's go in there and see. It's still a long way down there. So there's the hole, and that's about centered. Even if it was this, there's plenty of room. So I'm not going to hit anything, and the stem won't interfere with the bilge pump. I can always move the bilge pump and the float anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and enlarge the hole in the bottom of the boat. So I'm choosing to do this from the bottom for two reasons. I can reach it. I've got better visibility. The only downside is I'm going to get stuff in my eyes I don't really care about. So the key to enlarging a hole is to use a pilot, and that's an inch bit. I don't really need to be that snug. I'll show you what I mean by a pilot in a minute. That's 7/8. That will work. So in other words, this has got to go in there before the other hole saw does. So this is what I meant when I was talking about doing a pilot. So most hole saw sets, the bigger the diameter of the hole, the shorter the hole saw is. And that's so you can do this with them. You can screw them together. So the one in the middle, the inside, is screwed onto the mandrel, which goes through the other one. So this is the plan. You just set this inside the hole. It's basically just like that. And it's going to go through there and just enlarge the hole in the bottom of the boat without doing any damage or sliding or trying to hold this on one edge of that hole. All that silliness. Now my problem is this is too big. I want to use 1 3/8 inches, but that's got a monstrous bottom on it. See that? See how thick it is? I can't use that. It doesn't work. So I'm going to have to actually buy a hole saw when I have. It's ridiculous. I have to buy a hole saw. I might come up with a plan B. So I didn't really like the idea of having to go buy something I already have. So I went the old-fashioned route. So most everybody knows the old-fashioned way to enlarge a hole is to just cut the size hole you want in a piece of wood, lay it over the other hole, and run the hole saw in. Well, I don't have room for that. Plus, I just didn't bring any wood cutting tools, but I was prepared to do this. So this is a VCT tile. I made 2 of them exactly the same size, just so I have a thicker wall thickness to get the hole saw in. I stuck it in the inside of the boat. I went underneath, and that's my hole from the bottom. So I'm going to cut that the size that I need. I'm going to go back inside the boat, lay it in there, and then I'm going to run the hole saw through it. Stay tuned. So what I did was I found the center of that hole with a small drill bit, and I just did it by hand to make a little spot for that bit to bite into. Ran the hole saw in reverse. Always run a hole saw in reverse to start with, so it's a nice clean, it doesn't drift. You get the hole started right where you want it, and then went right through. Put a piece of backing there. I'm going to try to contain this mess because it's whatever VCT vinyl company. Vinyl, it's fine. Plastic. And now I'm going to go put this back in the boat. So there it is. See right there. So I'm going to use that VCT tile. I'm not going to be able to do this and do this hole in 93-year-old mahogany that I have no idea how hard it is. But that's how it's going to work. I'm going to start it like that. Run the saw in reverse to start, and then go for it. So, there we have it. That went really easy because I was only cutting through a little, a donut. There it is. Let's go take a look at the bottom and see how ugly it ended up being on the other side. So I'm happy with that. It tore a tiny little bit of the wood right there. That's all. I mean, somebody did this before and really butchered it. Kind of surprising. But let's see. Another moment of truth. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Beauteous. All right, let's put it in. Figure out how we're going to hold it in here. I'm going to have to go home and get a jack. I love it when I get lucky. I didn't even have to go home. I remembered that my other trailer has a terrible tongue jack that's never exactly as high or as low as it needs to be. So I have this jack basically on the trailer, which was right over in the storage building. And that's, I don't need to jack anything. It just needs to hold it in there. This is going to work out slick. So there's no way I'm going to be able to do this and run the video. I actually need 3 hands. I'm using, in case I didn't mention it already, I'm using Boat Life, which is a polysulfide caulk. It will cure, able to apply underwater, because this boat's going to be going in the water pretty quickly. And I'm going to get that up in there, just apply pressure with a piece of wood in between, and then go and finish it from the inside. So that was... keep this going. Keep it from going upside down is what I'm trying to do. Okay, so that went in. I'm happy with that. It's being held up by the jack and the piece of wood. I smeared the Boat Life. I should have done a video on what you have to do just to get in and out of the boat with a tube of black caulk. The gloves came to me and put it basically inside the glove because I'm going to have it all over me regardless. It's just that kind of thing. I do not care about smearing it all over the place. It's a through hull fitting. I want it to be sealed. And now the tricky part will be tightening the nut without turning the fitting in the hull. And then we'll be close to done. So we're really all done. I was able to apply enough pressure on the jack from below to keep that from turning. And then I just used these big channel locks to bite on top of the nut and twist it down. I'm not worried at all about that excess caulk. It'll be easier to get off with a utility knife later it turns into rubber, than to smear around now. And on the bottom, it should be even messier than that, but same deal, it doesn't concern me that much. So I'm going to put the plug in with a little bit of Teflon tape, just hand tight, and put the plugs back in the motor and put the boat in the lake.